So you have a pension, and maybe you've been a diligent saver, and you've been thinking, over all these years that I spent saving, do I now have enough? Do I have enough to retire comfortably? Do I have financial freedom so maybe I can splurge in retirement? Well, in today's video, we're going to break that down, and we're also going to probably encourage you that if you are in this position, you probably are in a better spot than you even think. And we always talk about the 2% club on these YouTube videos, and that's the fact that if you have a pension, you're in the top 20% of people out there because only 20% of people have a pension. And if you've been a diligent saver and have saved at least $1 million, your net worth is $1 million or more, then you're in the top 10% in the entire country. And so when you factor in those two percentages, you're left in the 2% of the population with a pension and $1 million plus. And so if that's you, congratulations, you've done great. And so I hope this video can be helpful for you to do what I call give, gift, or spend the wealth that you've spent so long accumulating. You can't take it with you. And so we hope this video can give you the peace of mind, but also start thinking next level of now that you are in this situation, what are you going to do with it? And so that's what's in for today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
All right, we've got a fun video here today, and if you've been an avid viewer of this channel, go ahead and send me some comments below of what you think of the channel. Do you like it? What can we improve on? Always helpful to me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe, and that will allow you to get reminders for all of our videos. And then it'll also allow the YouTube algorithm to reach more people with our content, those with pensions, $1 million plus. We get a lot of people who watch our content who send this off to their friends who end up reaching out to us and end up working with us. And so anything we can do to spread the knowledge of pensions. We know it's not talked about enough, especially for this specific 2% crowd. So when you think about retirement, the question is always, how much do I need to retire? And there's studies out there that show that if you have just over about $1 million, some studies will say if you have 1.3 million, that is the comfortable amount in people's minds to retire comfortably. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into this $1.3 million that you need, or this $1 million you need to retire. And a lot of it depends on, how much is your Social Security? Do you plan on, spending how much in retirement? How luxurious do you want to live? As I always say, if you want to live in a cardboard box and eat ramen noodles, we don't need $1.3 million to retire. You could have probably retired 10 years ago and been totally fine on being able to live that, life ongoing. So all of these factors are involved, but we're going to take an average case today of what most people say, and we're going to break it down. And if you do have a pension, remember, that's not included in that $1.3 million net worth calculation that people need, but it is a consideration that goes into that when it comes to the income needs, because now you may not need to take as much from the investments, or you may not need as much in your investments. And so that's really what I want to break down today, is to give you that perspective to know that because of your pension, you don't have to save that benchmark number that everyone else tells you about. You may be able to save a lot less. And so I just want to give you an example too. If you have a pension, let's just use a solid number of $60,000 a year. So if you're receiving a pension that's $5,000 a month, which is a pretty decent pension there, or if you're both married and receiving two pensions that maybe equal $5,000 a month, understand the value of that pension. Now, if we took that $60,000, if we took $1 million as an example, and we went into the open market, and let's say we went to an insurance company and said, hey, insurance company, we want to take this $1 million and we want to turn it into an income stream for the rest of our life. If that's the case, then that would produce us about $60,000 a year in income. And if that's the case, you could argue that your $60,000 pension is worth $1 million. And so you have to understand that if everyone's telling you need 1.3 or 1 million, well, you've already probably got that if your pension is $60,000 or more. And then also, if your pension has a cost of living adjustment on it, then that makes it even more generous for you. It allows you to have more of a value there, because if you went to the insurance company in that case, the numbers I ran to get those numbers would have been a level payout over the lifetime. And so because of that, there's not going to be any inflation adjustments on that type of, income annuity from an insurance company. But if you have a pension, you work for the federal government or retired military, you may be able to have a cost of living adjustment on that just makes it even more fruitful as time goes. So I really wanted to put that in perspective that, even if you have nothing saved, most people watching this have $1 million or more saved, but let's say you didn't have anything saved and you had a $5,000 a month pension, and let's say you had Social Security on top of that. You may be fine. You may not need any money from investments because you're already at $5,000 a month. Let's say you're at $3,000 for Social Security. Let's say your spouse gets half of yours due to the spousal benefit, because even if your spouse never worked, they can still receive half of yours, which would be $1,500. You're looking at $9,500 a month. That's over $100,000 a year before you even think about any investments that you may have saved over all these years. That's an incredible spot to be in that most people don't have the privilege of being in. And so you can see where people without pensions, it's so hard to retire comfortably. And that's why you have to understand how unique your position is of having that pension and a higher income moving forward. And just think about it. If you didn't have a pension and all you have was Social Security, you have $4,500 of guaranteed income a month, which that's great. But if you want to live on $100,000, that's a huge gap that you have to fill with that investments. And that $1 million, if that $1 million sees a sequence of returns risk where, hey, the market's down and that $1 million's now worth $500,000, like 2008 happened, for example. Well, in that case, you now have to withdraw from $500,000, and that's what we call a double loss. One from the market down, two from your taking out withdrawals from a down market. And the question is do we have enough to outlive, what we need to live on? We're going to outlive our money as time goes. And so, when you plan without a pension, you're going to either have to be more protected with your investments, which means you might not get as much growth, or you're going to have to deal with sequence of returns risk if we're not planned for that appropriately. And so that's why a lot of people who don't have pensions are jealous of those who do have pensions, because it makes your planning more comfortable, right? There's a study that shows that having a guaranteed income stream can add happiness to your retirement years. And so obviously I know all of you watching this are extremely grateful for your pension, but really just want to put it in perspective of how great of position that you're in. And you can also see here that let's say you do have $1 million or you have $2 million, and let's say you do have that $5,000 a month pension, to use it as a case study here. Well, as I said, you're already at $100,000 between pension and Social Security without even touching your investments. And so, if you have $1 million, just like the calculation we just ran, you could technically take out $60,000 a year for the rest of your life and likely not run out of money in that scenario. Or if you have $2 million, then you could take out $120,000 a year. Or if you have $3 million, you could take out $180,000 on top of your $100,000 of guaranteed income. That's $280,000 if you have $3 million or more that you could at least take out and still likely have money to leave behind when you pass away. And that's an incredible spot to be in, right? Even if you just have $1 million, that's 60 plus 100, that's $160,000 a year. That's probably more than what you're making when you were working or close to it. And that's the other thing that we really want these Midwestern millionaire people, this 2% club, to realize is that what are we going to do with all this wealth, all right? We've done such a good job of saving. Are we going to spend it? Are we going to gift it? Are we going to give it? But also we have to understand we're going to likely be in a higher tax bracket or the same as when we're working. And so right now is a very advantageous time to put ourselves in a better position moving forward. One, because tax rates are lower. Historical average tax rates are much higher than they are right now. And we know that these are going to be, low until the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, sunsets there, which we don't have an exact date on. It's set to be 2026, but that could change. And so with all of these understanding of where we're at now, maybe we look at doing some tax strategies now, like for example, a Roth conversion, which is very popular right now, where we take some of this $1 million that's likely probably in all tax deferred with the people who come see us, and we can start to take some of that off and put it into a Roth where we pay the taxes now at a lower rate, so that in the later years when our income could potentially be higher or the same and tax rates could be higher or the same, those would be more advantageous times to take out from a Roth where it's tax-free. So if we can start being strategic in this type of planning as well, knowing that we're going to be in this situation in the future, it's also going to allow you to spend more money or give more money or gift more money. And so that's something that we really want to start planning for now. If we just keep waiting and waiting until that day comes, we're going to leave ourselves without any flexibility. If all you do is save in a tax-deferred investment, you get all your tax savings today, but in 10 years, 20 years, if tax rates blossom and go up excessively, you're going to be left needing to take out money from your tax deferred without any options. Plus, at 73, the government's going to force you to take out money from your tax deferred investments called a required minimum distribution, which, again, we have no control over what tax rates are going to be when you reach that age. And so having a Roth, you're not required to take R&Ds, but also now we have control. We can choose which vehicle to pull it out from. Maybe we're about to hit another tax bracket, maybe a good scenario to pull from our Roth in those years. And so that's the advantage of doing some tax diversification and not just having all your eggs in that tax deferred bucket there. And if you've watched this channel for a while, you are familiar with the term Midwestern Millionaire. I snuck it in earlier in this video, and that's that person who has been hardworking. They're frugal, which means they're better savers than they are spenders, and they've just done a great job over all these years of being a diligent saver. And because of that, they're in the scenario that we're talking about in this video. And they've lived a life of service. They've never made millions of dollars a year, as I always say, but they've done the right things to position themselves to now, one, be able to have that financial freedom to do what they want when they want, but they're also going to be subject to more advanced planning. And that's why these videos, we always encourage this crowd, make sure you're seeking out the right help. Don't just go to a cookie cutter financial planning team or advisor who only does investment management. Make sure you're getting complete help with comprehensive service where the CPA, the attorney, the Medicare specialist, all of the professionals are working together, where you're getting all the services you need in your retirement, knowing that you're going to be in a higher income, knowing that you're going to have a higher net worth and be more in a unique crowd than most people out there. Make sure you're working with a team who specializes in pension planning, but also has the software and tools to be able to help you make those decisions for you. And so that's what we always recommend as you plan your retirement moving forward. But one big thing that we talk about with this Midwestern Millionaire crowd is, what are we going to do with this wealth, right? I started the video with this thought of, are we going to spend it, give it, or gift it? Are we going to enjoy the money by spending it? Are we going to give it to charities or organizations? Or are we going to gift it to loved ones? And we have the choice for those last two of gifting and giving to do that now while we're living, or later when we pass. And so we're never here to force someone to do any of those three. It's really up to them. But we do really encourage our clients to think, what do you want to do? Most people haven't thought about this. Most people have just been so busy accumulating. Most people have lived paycheck to paycheck all these years because they've done such a great job of putting money away that it felt like they didn't have as much. Plus, they were probably taking care of family. Plus, they didn't make excessive amounts of money every single year. And so because of all those things, it's now a paradigm shift to know they have the ability to do what they want, when they want, and as I always say, with whoever they want. And that's what I call financial freedom. And so that's where you can, simply give yourself a pat on the back and say, good job, well done. And so now it's a matter of what do we want to do? And we have a lot of tools that we use with our clients. One is just simply running an analysis, showing them that, hey, we can spend X amount of dollars per year and still be left with millions of dollars when you pass away. And so what are we going to do each year to maximize that money if that's their goal? Maybe they start to gift some to their kids so they can start saving more efficiently for their retirement, or maybe they have some debts that would be willing to pay off, or maybe they can start doing trips with their family to have everyone be together more and experience more. Whatever it may be for them, we just want to see them live that retirement with purpose. You've worked so hard. Make sure you use your money as a tool to do what you want in retirement there. And so I hope that really gives you perspective to understand what can be done with this life savings that you had. And remember, all the numbers you hear out there may not necessarily be true if you have a pension. You may not need as much at all to retire comfortably because of the power of a pension. And so with that being said, that's all we have on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. Now, if you are looking for this specific type of planning, you'll hear us offer a lot of times on this channel that you're more than welcome to schedule a time to talk with our team. And this is specifically who we serve, that 2% club, pensions, and $1 million plus. And so if that's you, and maybe you're looking for a team and you're just like, hey, I need a change, or I want to find something different, feel free to schedule a time with us. We primarily serve that crowd, and we love to explore to see if we could be a good fit to work together. And we hear a lot of people all across the country who reach out to us saying, I'm trying to find someone locally, or I've worked with other firms and they just don't do what you all do. And so that's really our goal, is to deliver that level of service to those who really need it, really value it, and that we could form a great relationship moving forward. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Joe Knows Retirement.